Tifu by telling people I had a twin, by user I am a lunatic. My brother, 18, and I, 16F, are in the same year, both in year 12, and when we used to go to the same school, not anymore, thankfully, people used to ask us if we were twins and I'd explain that no, I skipped. Pretty much everyone got confused and people always thought we were twins, and I got tired of explaining so I just gave up and told everyone, yeah we're twins. I'd explain it, then once more I'd get asked by the same people what it was like to have a twin. I got tired. We've been in different schools for 3 years now. I've mentioned I was 16 a billion times and I thought everyone knew it was just a thing I say as then they're likely to work it out because he is 18. It's a running joke now in my whole school. People will ask me how's your twin, it's just a joke. Basically, a girl who came from my brother's school kept asking when my birthday was so I told her and she gave me a confused look and said but his is in November. I guess she didn't realize I was 16? And I was not in the mood to explain it, I was in the middle of homework, and she found me in the library, so I said yeah, my mom was in labor for months and that was that. She fucking believed me. Why would you even? Her mom ended up calling my mom because the whole school is making fun of her for believing my mother was in labor for months and her mom started complaining to my mother, who got mad at me for not explaining the joke to her. My brother thinks it's fucking hilarious, though. He laughed about it for absolute ages and told our whole family and his whole school. In my defense, who the fuck would believe that? I am sorry. Edit, the real reason I got into trouble was because of this. My mom said you're giving me a headache, all of this because of some joke and I said a headache's better than the whole 16 months of labor right, and now I'm grounded. TLDR told everyone I had a twin brother, even though my brother's older, and a girl proceeded to believe that my mother was in labor for months, and now she's being made fun of. TIFU by claiming to be Jewish, by user Sadal Drunk. This didn't happen today or yesterday or the day before that. In fact, it happened almost 10 years ago. But this particular fuck-up continues to affect me to this very day. Several years ago, after a bad breakup, I decided to cheer myself up by getting back into tabletop gaming, a hobby I'd largely given up. I discovered meetup.com and responded to a handful of posts from people looking for new players for their games. But the first few that I responded to weren't great. One of them was really far away, another one already had like 8 players, etc. So I started going into these events with the mindset that I very well may never see the people I meet ever again. Flash forward to a post by a guy I'll call Derek, looking for people to join his D&D game. It turned out that he only lived a few blocks from me, and Derek and the other guys who were there, let's call them Philip and Matthew, all seemed easy to get along with. So far, so good. Everything was going great until Matthew suggested we order pizza. Philip looked up a place on his delivery app, we collectively decided what we wanted to get, and then Philip announced that the place had a special where we could get bacon as an additional topping for no cost. Ah, free bacon, the classic Jewish dilemma, I quipped. Matthew's expression immediately changed, and Derek said that I shouldn't make jokes like that because Matthew was Jewish. Now, I didn't mean to offend anyone with my stupid little joke, and I certainly don't have any ill will towards Jewish people in general or Matthew specifically. And I was still thinking that it was very possible that I'd never see these people again even if Derek and I hit it off. What are the odds that Matthew, or for that matter Philip, would be back next week? So to smooth things over I said that it was okay because I was also Jewish. I am blonde and green-eyed, and generally speaking I look more like Nazi propaganda than the average Jewish person, but Matthew was visibly relieved and the tension dissipated, and I figured that was that. Except it wasn't. Derek invited me back the next week, and when a new player joined the group, Derek immediately told him that I was Jewish. Derek, Philip, Matthew, and the new player, let's call him Jojo, as I'm running out of fake names, went on to become some of my closest friends. And Matthew keeps inviting me to temple and various Jewish events, because somehow despite living in NYC I'm one of his only Jewish friends. 10 years later, our friendships are still going strong. Derek continues to tell everyone that we meet that I'm Jewish, and Matthew continues to invite me to Seders and temple and so forth. And now I'm in so deep that I've resorted to researching Jewish culture and history so that I can maintain the charade. Elheim, my Reddit friends. TL.dr I claimed to be Jewish to avoid offending a new acquaintance I thought I'd never see again, but he and the rest of the group all stayed friends with me for years and continue to believe that I'm Jewish. Edit, a few things since I'm getting a lot of repeat questions. A lot of people asked about Derek introducing me as Jewish to people, which I addressed here. Some people suggested that I should, or should have 10 years ago, said that I was ethnically or culturally Jewish but not religiously Jewish, which I addressed here. A few people asked about the risks of me being introduced to women. I'm happily married to a non-Jewish woman who is fully familiar with this story, and is very amused by it. I should point out that I am only believed to be Jewish within that group, and I don't generally go around pretending to be Jewish. Allah Berg from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Also, that group has largely dispersed, with Derek and Jojo moving out of state and Matthew moving pretty far out on Long Island, so these days it's really only an issue in terms of the guilt I feel when I get Shanatava cards. A lot of people said that Matthew overreacted, or I should tell Matthew that I've had a change of faith or I'm not that observant or something similar. It's not like he's been hounding me to go to temple every week for the last 10 years. He only invited me to a few cultural events at his temple, to Seder a couple of times, we attended, and to his son's bris, we attended. Matthew's not even particularly religious or observant. We were in the process of ordering a pepperoni pizza when Philip noted the free bacon deal which triggered all this. Matthew's a good guy and a good friend, did nothing wrong, and is absolutely not the problem here. Contrariwise, a lot of people like, hundreds of you said I should just convert. I'm not entirely ruling it out, but I was raised somewhere between half-assed Protestant and heathen and don't really have any deeply held spiritual beliefs. So as of right now, if I converted, I would just be going through the motions, which I feel would be dishonest and disrespectful to the religion and the people who adhere to it. To everyone who commented Oy vey or Mazel Tov or anything along those lines, each and every one of you is a marvelously unique mastermind of comedic creativity and genius. A lot of people had comments about the joke I made. Some thought it was funny, some thought it was offensive, and some drew broader conclusions. It's not my place to tell anyone how to feel. I have half a dozen close friends from college who are Jewish, and probably at least a third of my work friends and colleagues are Jewish, and a lot of them enjoy sharing Jewish jokes, so having spent my entire adult life in that context, I felt a level of comfort with that material that I really shouldn't have with a group of people who didn't know me very well. So the larger lesson here, other than tell the truth and don't tell offensive jokes, is to remember that when you meet someone they don't know what's in your heart, and it's your job to make sure they understand what you mean, and not the other way around. And after all this, if you still think that I'm racist or anti-Semitic for telling a mildly inappropriate joke and then proceeding to becoming close family friends with the recipient for the rest of our lives, well, I hope you find peace. TIFU by punching my racist BIL into the hospital and refusing to paying the bill, by user. Obligatory did not happen today, but a few days ago, and throwaway account. Also, I don't often use Reddit, so bear with me, smiley face. Bit of backstory, I, 28M, have been dating my girlfriend, 28F, for a few years now, and between just the two of us, everything is perfectly fine. No issues 95% of the time. The only problem that we do have is her immediate family, parents, siblings. I'm white and originally Dutch, she's originally Japanese. Between us we don't care, but her family does. Especially at first, her family was against her dating a white boy. She ignored them, and for the most part so did I. Over the few years her father has started to warm up to me slowly, but both her mother and brother still dislike me an awful lot. The mom just gives me the silent treatment most of the time, but her brother is sometimes downright racist towards me, my family, he never met them, and culture. Now to the actual event. A couple of days ago we were at the in-laws' place for dinner in an attempt, NR100 it feels like, to find some mutual respect. Dill was fine with it and talked to me. Mill was ignoring me half the time, and BIL gave me angry stares. After a while he started to go off on a racist tirade against me and all you white people, and I had enough of it. I stood up for myself, and my GF backed me up. Eventually BIL stood up and walked up to me, and GF, in a reflex I stood up as well. After some insults in Japanese, I'm learning the language but no idea what he said, my GF told him to fuck off. He then slapped her in her face and spat in mine. He didn't slap her hard, but hard enough to be audible. Now, I am at least a full head taller than him and almost twice as broad, so when I punched him in the face, he was immediately knocked out. I left with my girlfriend in tow. I was shaking and couldn't drive, so she drove us home, while fully assuring me she's on my side. Yesterday I received a message from the ILs and they now demand I pay the hospital bill since I apparently fractured his cheekbone. I have no intention to pay it, and when my GF read it she also was like fuck that. I'm not sure what to do and I feel like shit now, especially since I was starting to actually get along well with her father. That progress seems to be undone now. TL, I one punched my racist BIL over dinner after he was especially racist and assaulted my GF. Now the ILs expect me to pay the hospital bill. GF is on my side though. Edit/update, thanks for the support folks. I didn't expect it to blow up like this. GF and I have talked about it and also contacted the ILs with the request to sit down and talk about this whole thing. We heard that both her parents were shocked at how far this had apparently escalated and agreed that we should sit down and talk this out. Neither side wants to involve any kind of authority, so that is good to hear. We do still cover our bases and we haven't made any promises, but I'm somewhat optimistic at this. This is the first time they actively want to talk to me, especially the mill. We'll see how it goes. Also, I know they're not in-laws technically, but it's easier to write mill/BIL rather than girlfriend's mother or girlfriend's brother, smiley face. TIFU believing emergency cock was a real expression, by user mel_behaved. English is not my first language and I was living in an anglophone province where I was putting my English to good use while learning expressions like it's a piece of cake or hold your horses since expressions are not always obvious. One day on this topic, my co-workers convinced me that the expression emergency cock meant that you save something for an emergency, like stashing chocolate in your desk for a major craving or keeping an umbrella in your car in case it rains. I thought it made sense and didn't think anything of it. So I began to use this expression in my daily life. One occasion I remember going on date during a hike and pulling out a thin tubular flashlight when my date asked me what it was for. I mentioned it was my emergency cock. They didn't say anything about it, blushed and the date ended awkwardly. The worst occurrence was during a meeting with a client. I had mentioned that it would be a good idea to purchase additional support on their website package as their emergency cock. The client got me to repeat that a few times, obviously confused and a bit uncomfortable. My co-workers were there. They got real quiet and took me aside after the meeting to let me know they had lied about the expression that I had been using for a full year. I was and still am beyond embarrassed. I was convinced that emergency cock was a common English expression and used it for about a year in my day-to-day life including with clients at work. TIFU by using the word browski. By user Dilcreus. I am 18, will turn 19 this year, also pan, an ace. Not everyone wants to fuck everyone they like. I never posted about having an husband, cause I never had one. Ida Bots posts a comment of or post if you ever delete it, so you can double check it like that. I started dating my, now ex, boyfriend a week ago. We were chillin' in my house, watching Markiplier, eating noodles, everything that I wanted from a relationship. I was on the couch and he was coming from the kitchen. I pointed at the remote and said pass the remote browski. He looked at me, shocked. I thought it was because I demanded him. I said please. He asked me why the fuck I called him bro. I didn't know he would act like it so I apologized, told him I would never call him bro again and smiled. He laughed saying there's no again and left. But today, a friend of ours said he wanted to call me and ask me to apologize. Told them to make he do it. He did call me, I answered the phone. What's up browski? He had a meltdown. But I got kicked out of the groups for triggering him. I lost most of my friends and my boyfriend over a stupid word. One of my sides is blaming me and the other one is wanting to mess with him more. Some info, we have been friends with them for over 10 years. We are from the same neighborhood. My ex is a friend's friend, we opened a group called Queer Folks and added him there. We have been friends for over 4 years. We had fights as friends but after all always sat down and made jokes in the group. We flirted for a month and decided to date when everything went well. Some people wanted more details but only detail I can give is I called him browski a lot of times and a day before this happened, we were playing codenames and one of friend's fav food was there so I said Aaron browski's fav food and he laughed. I, to the group, thought them this word and it doesn't have a meaning in Turkish. Update, my friend saw the posts, they apologized, no word from my ex but I got added back to the GC and pretty sure he was online for a good 10 minutes. And I learned his side. His side as my friend told. He was having a rough day and told me that he did so we met up played games, made food yada yada and then I said browski go out, he was shocked and wasn't angry at browski, and then I said browski again so he asked me to not say that word and why was I angry at him. I screamed and told him to F off while calling him browski. He cried the whole night and had to tell this to GC. To me this is BS and both my exes defended me knowing I wouldn't do such a thing. My guess of my friends believing him without listening to me is that he is a man. Won't be too close with them from now on. Also thanks for rewards and kind messages. TL, DR, I called my boyfriend a word he hated, cause our relationship to end, didn't apologize and lost my whole friend group.